All right. And we're back with another great show for Positive Influence tonight. Cannot wait to get my guest up here. I think she's going to be a great one to have on the show for this, especially for the way that the show is geared on this with Positive Influence. If you watched the last one, the inaugural show that I did with my guest before, it's it's a very laid back show, like my shows normally are to a degree, but it is a one on one, not a panel style at all. And I get to have one on one time with the guests, learn about their projects, yes, but learn more about them as creators and humans. Again, it's important. If we see red eyes anywhere in here, anybody needs to let me know. If I miss those, then I need to shut this thing down because, Skynet is watching at all times. So before we go ahead and delve too much further into all of that and get all the conspiracy theorists all riled up, time to go ahead and bring my guest up. So we're going to say Fawn S is her name. I'm going to let her pronounce everything else on here.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
What if I'm not a human?
I don't know. I'm not seeing red eyes yet. I think we're okay so far, unless
All
you're
right.
really good at hiding it.
Yeah, I'm really good at it. Yeah. My pen name is Sansaki Kochika. It's pretty simply Kochika is Japanese for fawn. So it's just sometimes there's a lot of backing behind it, but pretty simply I just translated my name.
Nice, nice. Now, is it because you're hiding from certain people in the other worldly stuff? Or is it just because you don't want to talk about it? I mean, either way, I'm good with that.
No, I mean back when it started, because I was so young when I'm a millennial, so I basically grew up with the internet becoming big and getting established and stuff. And when you first got on there, your parents were like, "You can't use your real name on the." So this was the name I adopted back then, and yeah, I've just kind of stuck with it. And then even I went to Japan a few times to study, and I learned pretty fast that the name Fawn, because it's not normal sounds. People in the US don't even believe it's my real name, but they couldn't pronounce it. So Kojika was just easier. And I'm like, I've gotten so used to it at this.
There you go. I mean, hey, I've been called worse in my life, so I think that's one of those things that I could kind of live with. Is a fancy name that's got the Japanese motif to it and everything. It's like, oh, it sounds like a person of power.
I don't think a baby deer sounds very powerful.
Well, if you wouldn't have said it was a baby deer, I would have been like, ooh, yeah, she's up there in the powerful realm there. And then you said baby deer, and I'm like, she may be a little bit lower in the realm than I thought.
Just a little.
Now, of course, it's not just, name changes that you do, within your realm of all of your wheelhouse of things to do. You actually do some art stuff, if I'm not mistaken, as well, don't you?
No, never. Yeah. I mean, gosh, when I'm not working, I'm working on art. That's pretty much it. I spend a lot of time doing that for sure.
And I've seen quite a bit of it. And as we're going through this, I'm going to kind of show some of the background as well. Every once in a while, we try to be kind of professional on this show, and this looks almost professional. Ooh, it's almost like Mystery Science Theater 3000. We can make fun of it if we want to, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, that's every now and then I like to try to do some realism just to go because I've done it every few years to see how I've gone. And this particular pick, it's actually a character from one of my novels. Her name is Priti. She is a succubus. I freaking love using her to try realism for some reason. So yeah, this was one that was at this point it's been a couple years. So I gotta get back and do another picture of her. I just don't know what I want to draw with her.
And I've got quite a few pictures that I could have started off with and everything. The reason I chose this one is this seems a lot like your personality as well. It's almost like a mirror drawing of the kind of, the way that your personality is and everything. You've got it set up on here. So I want to kind of set the foundation for the way that you are, the art that you're bringing up and everything with this piece right here. And everyone that's watching, you're going to be very, very surprised to see the range of artwork that's available on
Yeah,
here as well.
this is definitely an odd man out, but yeah, I
I
love
mean,
it
it's some
still.
gorgeous stuff that you've got on here. How long have you been doing, the artwork you've been doing and all?
Oh, so I have technically been drawing since middle school. So what did that put me at like 10 or so? However, I didn't like art until I was about 16.
That's, I mean, even not liking it until then. I mean, you've been working on it and been doing some stuff on there. You've got a definite anime style. You can definitely tell that.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely heavily influenced. And I've even had people mention specific series, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm trapped in the 90s. That is definitely my influence is 90s anime.
oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely got that. and it's gorgeous work that you've got on here. And again, you're seeing all the range of the different, that she's got on here as well, because it's not, some artists have that way of they'll draw something and you go, I know exactly that's their art. That's their art. With yours, you kind of have to go through going, wow, she did this one too. Wow, she did this one as well, because it's something different on the style.
Some of it has been done over a course of years. And then, of course, there are two major methods I tend to use for coloring, which is digital and then Copic. So that can sometimes make a difference in its own regard.
And this right here, we're going to be talking about this, of course, here in just a little bit. This is the current campaign that you've got going, the book
Yep.
on there. And now, am I pronouncing this correctly? Zoskias?
Yep. That is Latin. That is not Japanese or anything.
Okay.
That is pretty straightforward.
I thought it was Latin, just making sure.
Yep, it is Latin.
It was one of those things where I didn't know if I was being tested at the time.
Definitely testing you. I'm always testing you.
Exactly. I mean, you can't have anything without the Christmas gift on there with the. It's got a very mischievous looking elf there that's sitting
It's
on.
actually supposed to be me. That's my when I stream, I usually use like an avatar that's a blonde elf girl with a red streak. I had a red streak for a while. And yeah, that was my Christmas card this year. And I just really like how it came out. So I've been using it for stuff even though it's not Christmas anymore.
Oh, it's gorgeous work. I mean, and again, I mean, we're going through and you see so many different styles and everything on there. What is one of the main artists that you kind of really try to work after? That's one of your pieces that you go, I want to get to that level, or I want to work to that style of things.
Oh gosh, that's a hard one.
We have good questions every once in a while here.
Yeah, like realistically, it's pretty much a very constant changing thing. Like, I follow a lot of Japanese artists, obviously, but I've also working at a comic store, I've been finding a lot more comic artists that I really like too. And yeah, I'll be going through stuff and just be like, I just want to learn how they did this. And it varies. Like Stanley Argerm, I think most people know, really like his stuff. It's amazing. I have a lot of his covers, even if I don't subscribe to this series. Pick up a random cover. Colette Turner is definitely one I really like. I've actually
Yes.
subscribed to some series just so I can get her cover for every issue. And yeah, it's like just seeing some of the stuff they do and kind of finding a grounding. And even like Japanese artists like Ansai Nobuyuki, who is a comic artist. He was kind of the one that a lot of my comic style stuff and like manga, like the actual comic book stuff itself and sound effects and backgrounds and detail for like fight scenes and stuff were stuff I gathered from him over the years. But there's a lot of influence here and there. And yeah, it definitely changes. And every now I'm like, oh, I could have done this better. Or maybe if I try it this way, it will look a little nicer and things. And it's just experimenting. And I feel like as an artist, that's never a bad thing until you can keep trying to find what works the best.
Exactly, man. It's all about, and I know it sounds horrible using the analogy, but everyone does, is you throw something against the wall and find out what sticks. And you do. You kind of have to throw against the wall several times and figure out, okay, that one actually stuck a little bit better than this one did. Because if you never try, you never know.
Exactly.
Now you've got a lot on here, of course, the anime stuff, especially on there, and then some of the realism. Is there a certain style or a certain technique that you're looking to kind of reach out to a little bit more, some different style that's out there that you're not using right now?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a specific style, but I definitely know like it's so because of the fact that I didn't have a really huge art backing or anything. My older sister was the artist when growing up. I was the smart one. So I let her do the art stuff and I tended to do more of the academic. So when I started feeling more confident and wanting to do more art, I kind of was already behind where I didn't have like the basic, like I didn't have any classes. I didn't have the basic anatomy stuff and structure like that. So I kind of picked a weird place to start. And so one of my big goals is now that I've gotten a little more confident in myself and in my art has been going back. And actually what I've been doing is mostly focusing on just getting better with anatomy and like sceneries and stuff that I'm not as good with. I literally have an entire folder of like pinups that I want to try to use a basis of it and look at it and use it as kind of like a base reference for drawing things. And like the last picture you had up, that was one of the pinups I did more recently. But I feel like it's one of the easiest ways to look at anatomy is to literally look at something like that.
Oh, absolutely. And anytime you're talking about, succubus or demon girls or something like that, that automatically caught my eye anyway. That's why I was like, that's being saved for last on that one.
Yeah, she's definitely it's really funny because that form of that particular character only showed up like within the last year, and suddenly her popularity, she's like number one on the chart
Oh
now.
yeah.
Like I'm not surprised.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that the female form does sell quite a bit more that's out there and everything, but it has to tell a story. It has to have
Mhm.
some kind of a foundation to it piece at all. I mean, you can't just go, okay, here's either, half naked, naked woman, that kind of thing, whatever, and all of a sudden it just runs with everything. You got to have something where it has some kind of a feel to it. And this one definitely has more feel to it. You can see the almost the softness in the eyes. Let me bring this up here again because it's got like softness in the eyes, but it also has that mischievous, look, the grin, whatever,
Yeah.
the smirk there. And then, of course, the rest of the form and everything looks like it's got, the power in there, but the playful side. There's so much that's being told in this. And there's so many different ways of seeing that, too.
That's good because I feel yeah, I really felt this captured this particular character. Her name is Lily, and she's from Zoskias actually. But this has been technically this form appeared as a rough sketch like years ago, but she didn't appear in this form until more recently. And it's yeah, she's usually a very happy-go-lucky, jovial, kind of mischievous, bratty character. And then this side of her is like, oh, by the way, this is her true power, you know. So it's definitely a lot harder hitting, and that yeah, I'm really glad that that conveyed it. I just really wanted to practice drawing anatomy, and I thought she was a good one for it because she shows so much skin already.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Now, going back to, we've mentioned about Zoskias a couple of times on here. I want to go ahead and kind of discuss about this a little bit now.
Mhm.
First off, kind of give us the premise of exactly what this is about, first and foremost.
So there are people. No. Summaries are not my strong suit, but I will do my best. So basically, it's set in our world. It's kind of like an urban fantasy, paranormal, urban paranormal, whatever you want to label it as. But basically, different dimensions exist. But there's organizations that are kind of meant in each world to kind of keep them from causing chaos to each other and keeping the balance in lieu. So Ordo Templi Orientis is the one in our world, and Zoskias is just one of the many organizations underneath it. So they're not even like the top. They're really low. In fact, they're so low down they don't actually guard a dimension door or anything. They literally are just kind of there to keep anything that gets over or anything that goes amiss that could disrupt this balance. They take care of. So they're actually a pretty small organization. It looks like I have a lot of characters in the series, but a lot of them either show up briefly or they have like a specific, role. They're an outsider that they bring in for help or something. So there's a lot of trade-off. These two characters you're seeing that were also in the cover, Light and Numishin, are the main two. Focus at the beginning, but they're not always the focus depending on what's going. So it's kind of like technically they're the main characters, but sometimes the story isn't actually about them.
I like that. I like that it can actually change a little bit by the more you read into it and the different perspective you see into it as well. That's an interesting part to put in there because it's too much of a cookie cutter style to have this is your hero, this is your villain, this is the story that they go up against, and the hero wins and the villain loses, and story's over.
There's also so much I want to do, and like a lot of these characters, as they've evolved, have just been like they're so more they're way more interesting than these two, and even the fans and like the readers and stuff agree. So I try to listen to them to an extent. I'm not gonna like make super major changes. Like yes, if their character is dead, they're dead. But there are times when I was like, oh, maybe I'll bring back this character early, or maybe I'll make this character important when they weren't, and stuff like that. So I do listen to an extent, and there's just yeah, there's a lot I want to tell. So I try to get it in without overwhelming.
Well, I mean, that's a good way of doing it too. And this is currently on campaign on Kickstarter.
It is on Kickstarter. Yep.
Um, and it's doing pretty well. I mean, out the gate and everything is doing pretty well on there, and it's got some forward motion on there. It looks like it's gonna end, fairly decently for you.
I
And
mean, I do see it getting to at least its goals. So obviously we all want more. I would love to see some of the stuff
Mhm.
unlocked. I'm just trying to be reasonable with my time and be like, I can't do this all at the same time. So
Right.
at least if I put it as an unlock, I'll feel a little more motivated if it reaches that point.
Exactly, exactly. Now, what is one thing that you may have learned from this campaign that you want to take into future campaigns as a positive and say, I learned this from here, but I think we can do it better in the next one?
This is actually my 8th campaign, so this is not a
Mhm.
first one for me.
Right.
A lot of the stuff that I've learned throughout all of them has coming into this one. At this point, I say I feel like I've been using more of what I've learned from the other ones and learning new things. I've always met my goal. I've never actually had a campaign not succeed. A lot of them haven't been too much over. My last two were actually a bit over, so that was kind of cool to see, but they were lower goals as well. But yeah, it was just like, I feel like, I know I had some issues with like, I wasn't super confident, or I was like, oh, nobody wants to read this and I want to force it on them. But I was like, no, I gotta get out of that headspace and start promoting myself and feel more comfortable talking to people, and doing whatever trade-off, and like doing shows like this and just stuff like that. And that's what I've really been trying to do with this, is not be so afraid to like, yes, maybe I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm shoving it down your guys' throat. But I also need to do like, no, that's how you get it out there. That's how people find it. With
Exactly.
algorithms, especially on social media and websites and stuff, you're not going to see everything all the time. So it's not like everyone's seeing every continual post.
Exactly. Of course, it's not as bad as, with a certain Facebook, Meta, Skynet, whatever we're calling that thing right now, where 3 days later, I'm seeing posts that were put on there the day of.
Yeah, that's one of the, let's say that's only the worst. All people are like, you never commented on my post, and I'm like, what post? And then they send me the link, and I'm like, you posted this 5 days ago, and I did not show up in my feed. I'm like, this is something I really would have liked to see or know.
It is frustrating, but like you said, you still got to go ahead and work on trying to get your name out there with everything. What do you find as being the biggest hindrance on working on your personal marketing yourself by wearing that hat alone and moving things around?
Well, basically back down to the like, I personally just find it super hard to promote myself. Not trying to be like super like modest or anything. It's just it's definitely years of kind of being in the background and not really like having experience with it. And like I said, I kind of saw myself have a major improvement in even in art like in the last few years. And that's been one of the reasons why I'm like, I want to go back and redo stuff. But it's just, yeah, finding the venues to do it, finding the energy and motivation to do it. Like, and obviously marketing research. Luckily I have some training in that because my college major was design and illustration,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a lot of marketing classes. And even now I work for Oculus Soul, which is an online store, and I handle their social media. So I'm having some practice, but turning that back around to yourself is a little different than doing something that's not
It
you.
is. Well, it is, because you almost feel like, I want to get my name out there, but I don't want people to hear it too much because they're going to want to change the channel. But if I don't say it enough, then they're going to change the channel because they're not going to know who I am. It's a
Yeah.
back and forth.
It's definitely a learning process. And I've been in like this past year alone, I have really started connecting with a lot of other indie comic artists and learning a lot from them. And that was a big step for me, as I was kind of like, I don't know, do they want to be my friend? I'm some nobody. And I just started taking a chance, and most of them actually accepted friend requests, and they talk to me pretty regularly, and it's great. I'm learning a lot, and they're really friendly, and yeah, they're not as scary as it seems. So that's been great for me too.
That is awesome. Now, are you mainly in the realms of doing like covers, interiors, prints? What do you work on mainly?
Um, I guess that's kind of a weird one for me because I've kind of been like quasi like floating in the area. So doing a cover art for a comic has been a big dream of mine. I would love to do it, especially working at the comic book store now and seeing some of them like, oh my God. It'd be just so cool to walk. I didn't see my cover on them. I do all the art and stuff for my own. So I do all the interior
Mhm.
art and writing even. But mostly prior to that, I was just doing like a lot of like one-off illustrations. I do a lot of prints. My chibis, which are those like little small big head
Oh yes.
figures, those are definitely my most popular things. Generally I have them on like bookmarks and buttons. So those have been like the big thing that was a really weird thing I never thought would kick off, and that's what kicked off. I was like, oh, okay. Even on Patreon, that's like one of my big things there because it's one of the lower class rewards, but I have a lot of people going specifically because they want the chibi reward. I was like, oh, but yeah, it's like I've kind of feel like I just need to get more serious about this. And that's kind of what the past few years has been, is me really sitting down and like, okay, this is great and all, but I don't want to be known as just like an artist who does fan art. I want to do more of my original stuff. I want to improve upon the point. So like, yeah, I get to draw characters that maybe aren't super big, but like, they're actually out there where other people can see them. And
Oh yeah.
it's definitely a good thing no matter what. Like, I don't say don't do fan art because no, that's not it at all. It's
Right.
That's how you have to learn. You have to be able to step in and do other types of things and learn from other people's characters and stuff to be able to really home your own.
Oh, exactly. And you definitely have, since it's your own style, since it's your own look and everything, it's your own IP. So it's there's nobody looking at it going, that's a stolen idea. It's
Yeah,
someone
no,
else's
not at
idea
all.
that's been plagiarized or anything. Too much of that has been going around lately with some different things that are on there, And it's refreshing to see artists and have them on, to have you on as a guest and everything on here talking about this, because that's a big thing right now. And of course, we don't do drama. Everybody knows that, one of the rules. But one of the things is the integrity that's involved in
Yeah.
this. I mean, you have to go with the old school values if you really want to succeed, not only in the industry, but in life in general.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to kind of stray outside. You have to color outside of the lines. I know that's a good one. That's not a good topic for you to get on right there, but
No, I understand it. Yeah, like I said, this is not like something I'm necessarily like totally foreign to, especially because I mean, Zoskias alone is 17 years old. I've been doing art and Artist Alley for probably about 20 years at this point.
awesome.
I started when I was really young. I'm like, I know I don't seem like I'm like super old or anything, but I'm in my 30s. So I'm not also like some young little child or something.
See, I don't like your tone in that whenever you're saying you're in your 30s and not super old, because I am super old, so we're not going there.
Okay, I feel like to be fair, my back went out when I was like 21. So ever since then, I've felt pretty old.
I got to mess with you. Uh, No, but I mean, you've got some amazing stuff on here. You've got some good work that you've been doing on here. I know one project that you're working on that I am not going to talk about, because
Yep, that's not one to talk about. I know what
I'm
you're
not going
talking
to. And
about.
everyone's just going to have to sit over there going, "Oh, come on, he's not going to talk." Yeah, I'm going to
I
dangle
will
that
tell you,
carrot.
I've been very happy with how it's been coming out on my end. So I'm really excited to see it all come
I've
together.
seen some of it too. So yes, and that is a carrot that is dangled out there. If you want to know more about it, you just have to follow and find out. That's all we're saying.
You got to bribe us. Give me more fries.
But is there a bucket list of certain people that you have to have it in your mind that you're like, I've got to work on with these people or on their IPs that you would love to do?
As of this point, I don't really think there is one yet. I've really been trying to like because obviously I've been spending a lot of times with other indies, and I've been picking up like I realize even for the books I subscribe to, because yes, I subscribe to books at the comic store. That's a horrible thing for working at there. You stare at a book long enough, and suddenly you end up buying it.
Oh yeah.
I've realized the ones that I really like though actually aren't like Marvel and DC isn't bad. That's what I grew up with, and that's what I knew best. But oh my god, there's some great indie titles out here.
Yes.
One of my
Yes.
favorite is Something is Killing the Children.
Oh yes.
I don't think that would ever align with what I do or anything, but yeah, trust me, I would love to get a chance to do something with that one. I just love it. It's so good. But there's a lot of other indie ones I've been picking up as they come out, and I'm like, oh my god, I love this series. So yeah, I mostly subscribe to indies at this point.
And see, you saying that right there, now it's like I got to see you draw the main character. I got to see that now at some point.
I actually bought some blank covers, and one of them was Something is Killing the Children. So I'm gonna be drawing Erica.
Oh, there you go.
It's like I wanted to. That was the cover. While I'm going to sell it, that cover was bought because I wanted to draw her.
There you go. And that's a great way to do it too, because that way you do something that you're passionate about and you really put into it on there. And then if someone else wants to get something later on, you feel so confident off of what you've already done that you can go ahead and put that into that one over there. And of course, make it commissioned and make it,
Yeah.
unique, but you can definitely go move forward at that point, because taking a new character, especially one that's that developed,
Yeah.
because Erica is like known everywhere. Uh,
She's great. I love her.
oh,
She's
she
the whole
is.
reason. Like I picked up the book and I was like, no, this character, yeah, she got me. I'm
And
gonna
that's
have
a
to read it.
series that should have been done a long time ago, is what they were planning on, but the popularity pushed it forward.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's one of those that was not planned for this long at all. I think they're in issue what, 26, 27, 28, somewhere around
Yeah,
there.
like 28, I think just came
Yeah,
out.
it's up there. And I mean, I had the first 15 of them, and I was like, man, this is great. It's sad that this is fixing to end, because I think at the point they were going to like 18 or 20 or something like that, and they're going to complete it. And they just went and kept going, and then the story kept going in 19 and 20, and I was like, they're not stopping anytime soon.
I mean, unfortunately, I came in later to it. So I ended up picking up. I actually had a really slow day at work, so I'll go through and pick up some of the trade backs or like the individual issues of like a first one and read it. And that was one I kept seeing it, so I picked up the trade back, and suddenly I was like, oh god, I ordered all the ones that were out and pre-ordered the ones that were coming out. And I'm like, yeah, I have problems.
Now, first off, of course, you said you're working in a comic store, correct?
Yes, that is one of my many jobs. I have too many.
Definitely give them a shout out.
So I work for Screaming Monkey Comics. It is a small comics, locally like owned, family owned. It's owned by a lovely couple, John and Christina. And it's on the border of Indiana and Illinois. It's in Munster, Indiana, but it's pretty much you walk and you're in Lansing, Illinois. That's how close it is to it.
Okay.
It's a very good shop. They're really great. I love everyone who comes in. And yeah, I was like, I never wanted to go back into retail. They offered me something and I was like, fine, I need a job because I lost my job as a designer over the pandemic. And I was like, God, I don't want to go back anywhere else. I love this now.
Exactly. And of course, working there is great because you get inspiration and everything. Of course, it's a double-edged sword though, because on the other side of that sword is some really great stuff comes in. And like you said, you've got subscriptions and you're like, well, there went that paycheck.
Yeah. It's like every time somebody's come in, it's like, I feel so bad about like, I saw this. I'm like, dude, you're not the one staring at it for like all day and being like, you're going to come home with me, aren't you? I don't have this money, but you're coming home with me. I'll buy you.
Now, of course, working there and everything, and because you are a reader, because you're talking about that as well. What are a couple of the titles that have just really kicked into your mind? Some really stuff that you've seen come through. I mean, aside from, of course, something that's killed from children.
Oh, like so another thing too is I've been trying to pick up some new ones from recommendations of like some of our subscribers and stuff. So I realized first off, like indie, like I said, I also apparently like horror mystery, like supernatural horror mystery, that
Mhm.
kind of thing. So most of the titles I've picked up on that. The one that's kind of the odd one out there is I actually am reading Monkey Prince by DC, but not because it's a DC one, but I'm a huge fan of Sun Wukong, the monkey story that the
Right.
lore is based off of. I
Yep.
love folklore and mythology, and they actually are doing a fair job of keeping it straight.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it's like an amazing story, but I've been happy with like when they throw in something that's like a reference to the mythology. I'm just like, ooh, like nobody else gets it, but I'm like, yes. So I'm trying to think. Was it one of the more recent ones that caught my attention that I had to subscribe to because it just sounded so hilarious is Gangsta Ass Barista. That
Oh,
one's not,
yes.
yeah. It's like, what is this? I need this.
Yes.
That one was a fun one. And then like, was it Lovesick was another one. I stared at the poster before it came out for so
Mhm.
long. I was like, dude, I'm just subscribing to this. And it's been very enjoyable. So that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
So,
that poster was in the comic book stores for
oh
months. I
my
mean, that
God,
was,
yeah,
that
and
was
it's like
pre-launch thing for
it's
months
right
and
in front
months.
of the cash it was right in front of the cash register for me, so I'm like, I kept seeing it.
Oh
So I'm
yeah.
like, gosh, I'm just looking at this and I'm like, I'm so intrigued just by the art alone and the style of it and like, huh. Yeah, it's a really interesting thing, but I feel like just all the years of working with art and like anime figures where you see a lot of stuff that maybe people wouldn't consider proper, you just stop looking at it as like sexualizing it and you're just like, ooh, this is pretty.
Exactly. I mean, there are some. I'm gonna throw one out there right now. Is Sunstone. Content that's in there, of course, is definitely an SFW and everything, but the covers are so gorgeous that you're like, it just draws you in.
I'm gonna have to Google that one. I don't think I've seen that one at our store.
Stepan Sejic. Actually, I can send you the information afterwards because I've got
Yeah,
it
do
already
do
ready
it.
to go.
I'd like I'm the kind of person who literally has a bunch of covers that I just thought were pretty from different series, and
Yes.
some of them I'm like, I'm never gonna read this, but
But I mean, it's one of those things, and it's one that I just thought of right off the hand. But it draws you in to the point you're like, I don't know what it's about. I don't know what's going on in there just yet. I'm about to open this up, and I'm hoping I'm not going to be disappointed because it is so inviting on the cover.
yeah.
And that's the other big thing too is it is so important to have the interior has to match at least somewhat to what the cover is. Now,
Oh
of course,
gosh,
there's
yes.
variants. Everybody knows that, and that's fine. But you still want to have where the interior still matches the quality of what's on there.
Oh god, I've been so disappointed so many times when I pick up something
Yes,
that like the cover looks gorgeous and you open it and you're like, did a 5-year-old draw this? Like,
exactly.
and it's okay to be like black, have it be black and white or like grayscale or whatever. It's not even that. It's just some of the art that's been published and some of the recent stuff. Like my boss is also an artist and writer, and so he's been like at the comic shop, and he's also been like, he's like, wait, both of us could like do this. I'm like, I know I hate to be that person, but I'm also like, the story isn't really well paced. There's all this inconsistency. The art is hurting my eyes. I'm like, why?
Mhm.
How did this get published?
And I can only imagine how much you become more and more critical of what you're reading, being that you work there and see so much of that coming through on all levels.
Yeah.
So you get to the point whenever you go to make yours and you're like, I got to be mega critical on mine because I
Oh
can't
gosh,
have
for
been the
sure.
person talking about this to my boss or to other people and saying it could have been better this way. And then you produce yours and you're like, they can't see
Ooh.
this until I know everything is done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no, no, that's actually kind of the whole reason for the Kickstarter that I'm running right now. Because I don't know if you notice, it's volume 1, huh?
Yes.
Technically, I'm up to 14 volumes actually in print, but they've all been in black and white.
Wow.
And also because of the fact that this is like a 17-year-old thing, I'm sure you can imagine how much art and stuff has changed during that time. So this is the full color print. I am not going to let myself redraw everything as much as I want, but I am going to like clean up the frames, redo all the dialogue and typeset, change some of those stuff. These are some weird wording and pacing. And also there are some things I'm going to redraw, like, oh God, my first attempt at drawing a lion in volume 1, that hurts. The second time he showed up, I'm like, he looks like a lion now. I need to fix that. So there's gonna be stuff like that. But I was like, this deserves the upgrade because I know better. I understand better. I definitely started it. I wouldn't necessarily say prematurely, but that's kind of the way I usually word it. But
Mhm.
I definitely did not have the experience and the knowledge I needed to really push it for like I was.
That
That's
makes
okay.
sense.
It's okay to admit that you've made mistakes and learn from them.
Oh no, man. But the whole thing is what you just said right there. It's making mistakes is one thing, but learn. That's
Yes,
the kicker
learn.
right there. Is whatever mistakes you make, learn from them and then move on.
I want to see myself getting better. I don't want to see it like, oh, I've been the exact same way for 17 years. Like, no, I'd be crying if that was the case.
Oh, exactly. I mean, if you would have seen my first show when I first started doing this, I was nervous for one thing. Kept messing up on, what screens were where and how they were placed and this, that, and the other, and couldn't quite get things situated on
Yep.
there. And then, of course, now everything seems so fluid to me, but I go back every once in a while just to watch that to go, yep, I've
Ooh,
learned.
yeah.
I'm
To
okay.
be like, this is where I came from, guys. So I'm okay. I've gotten better.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, you being an artist, you know how to draw things. And everything. I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. So this is what I do for the industry is this right here, a host.
But you know what? Not everyone can do that. Like to me, I personally am like, there's so many people who do stuff I can't do. And I'm just like, dang, like, no, arting is what, but even within art, there's so many different levels. But yeah, it's like everyone has their own skill set. And yeah, you can't be great at everything. And that's fine.
Oh, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what's been probably, I'm going to ask you, what has been the most challenging piece that you've had to work on
Huh. Most
that's
challenging.
really put you out of your wheelhouse? Something that you've worked on going, I've
I
never
do
touched it
actually have
before.
this.
I don't know. I'm going to try it and see. Let's see what happens.
So actually it was last year. It was a following Patreon reward. So they was kind of hand in hand. They decided to commission more. So I haven't done a lot. Like I do a lot with chibis, but I haven't really done chibi animals. And one of my patrons, she won, like, because every month I give away a chibi along, like one chibi art, one normal art. So the winner of the chibi wanted me to chibify her dog. And I was like, oh, okay. It turned out okay. I was like, okay, this is okay. And then suddenly she's like, great. So I need all these Christmas presents now. And I think I ended up with a total of 16 different animals she commissioned, cats
Wow.
and dogs. And I'm just like, I have to think of different poses for these, and I'm like, I'm not that good with animals, and it was a very long and tedious thing too, and of course, trying to match the markings and get them to look enough like the dogs, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, oh my god, I have not stared at. I think there were like 3 cats and the rest were dogs, but oh my god, yeah, it was probably the most overwhelming thing I've had in a while, just because I was not quite expecting that response, and it had a deadline, of course, too, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm not up to the skill level. I did okay, but it was an extreme learning like process, and there were so many discarded sketches.
And it sounds like it was a lot of research that went into it as well, and a lot of time because, like you said, you don't want them to be the exact same pose on every single thing with different markings because then it would just be whatever.
Yeah,
Like a
I
My Little
know.
Pony thing. You see My Little Ponies, and they're the exact same thing,
Yes.
different butt tattoo.
I grew up
That's
with
all
the
it is.
original My Little Ponies where they actually looked a little different. But yeah, no, I mean, that's a big thing for me anyways, is I don't you're gonna eventually fall into repeating a pose no matter what you do. But I, especially with chibis, I always try to make them look as unique and different as I can as far as stylic and pose. Like character designs now, it's okay, they're standing in the same static pose. You don't want a dynamic pose for that. But
Right.
no, no, when you're trying to do something that you're doing for a person, I don't want them to feel like I'm just like taking some template and doing like, no, I'm drawing these all from scratch. So
I mean, also, you don't want it to look like you took an etch a sketch and just said, "Yeah, that looks good."
yeah. Yeah, I've seen some artists that I really used to like when I was younger and I used to look up to them. And then I realized as I got older, I'm like, they have like 7 poses they recycle. Like they're great artists as far as like the coloring and the art itself, but it's kind of sad to see that it's not a lot of variance in what's actually content wise.
And it is true, and that is something that once you get to looking behind the curtain, it's the difference between being a fan or a reader or a collector or anything like that. But once you actually get back here and start working with creators and everything, it's very different on what you see versus what you saw in the past.
Yeah.
Like you said, you've got creators that you looked up to and everything, that you see their stuff and you're kind of like, wow, that's the same from whenever it was 20 years ago. Same,
There's
it's never changed
even
the pose.
there's even a lot of like comic artists or manga artists, like the Japanese ones that
Mhm.
like okay, I'm gonna call him out by name, Mashima Hiro. He is best known for Fairy Tail.
Yes.
He's done God, I swear he's just using the same characters over again. They don't even look different. At least for his earlier stuff like Monster Soul and
Mhm.
Groove Adventure Rave, there was enough difference between that and even Fairy Tail that you could see some little areas like I can do this. Like, no, the stuff that's come out afterwards, I'm like, no, he's not even trying anymore. He's just like, we're just gonna slap on a different outfit on this character, give him a different boob size. I don't know. It's yeah, it's literally like that though. I'm like, I literally feel like I can even personality wise, they're like cookie cutter of each other, and that's kind of sad.
And that's sometimes you got to get out of that mold and just kind of do something totally different and take yourself out of that wheelhouse, not only for everyone else to see something different on there, but to prove to yourself that you've still got it to get out of that
Yeah.
wheelhouse. And as an artist, I'm sure you've got to change that style up kind of frequently, because otherwise it gets very complacent to the point where you're looking at it going, okay, this is a manga character, this is not a manga character, but I can't see many differences on there because I'm drawn in the same style at this point.
I
And
don't
you've got
even
to be
think
able to change that.
I don't even think the style thing is something I necessarily look for at this point for myself. My goal isn't necessarily to change the style, but to see how I can improve on like things like anatomy and coloring and things, didn't find ways. But yes, I do definitely want all of my characters to have somebody glance at it and be like, oh no, that's so and so. Never never mix them up with somebody or think it's the same one. I'm a big fan of that whole. I teach children, and one of the other jobs I have is I teach children at a local art gallery how to draw Japanese comics.
Nice.
So on week 2, when we talk about characters, I always bring up the silhouettes, like the silhouette test, and that's a big thing I personally think is like if you turn off the light, you should be able to tell, even if there's not a significant difference, you should be able to at least tell that they're different people just by
Exactly.
looking at their design.
Exactly. Now we brought up a lot about talking about of course comics and talking about manga as well. Now one thing that I got to ask you, because I'm going to see if you have a little bit of insight in this as opposed to some others that are out there, because there's been a lot of discussion on some posts that I've seen out there on why is it that manga is actually getting more of a momentum push than some of the comics out there. You kind of look at it, and manga is actually starting to get a good sized push out there. And some of the comics people are kind of like, why aren't we getting this? What's happening with this? What's your take on that?
I mean, definitely part of it is, yeah, it's not new, but to a lot of people it feels newer. I feel like so much of it is a really wide age range that there's a lot of stuff that can bring in younger viewers. And unfortunately with comics, like I know this is a conversation I've had at the comic shop a lot. Where the heck do you start? Like with DC or Marvel? Like where?
Yes.
Like there's so many reboots, there's so many start overs. It's very hard to pick up a place versus manga tends to just have one set story and that's it. So
Yes.
yes, you don't get a chance to enjoy the characters again, but some of these manga, one of the ones I really like to read is Detective Conan. Gosh, that one's been running for a long time though. It is not the longest manga running in Japan. That is actually, I believe, Hajime no Ippo, which is a boxing series. It's a very long running boxing series,
Hmm.
but it is, like even anime episode wise, it's over 1,000 already.
Wow.
Yeah, Conan is long, and I fortunately got into it before it was that far ahead. I've been reading. That was one of the ones I first started reading in Japanese. Very hard for me when I started reading is it's a murder mystery stuff a lot, and I'm like, I don't know these things. So I learned about murder and how to read murder words in Japanese before I knew like the word for egg. So it was a weird thing, but yeah, it's like so much of it, like even in Japan, that one is aimed at a younger audience than it is here because the way they treat kids. And yeah, so many kids are just able to pick it up because there's a starting point and there's a final point, not maybe everything, but because of that. Also, I feel like it's a lot easier to buy like a book versus to buy like an issue of something.
Yes.
Because, like, I mean, I personally am the same way. Like, for some of the comics I'm kind of interested in, I'm like, I'll wait for the trade back and just buy that. Especially if I'm coming in later to them. Like a Human Target from DC is when I was really
Mhm.
interested in after hearing some about it. I just bought the trade back. And I know there's only going to be 2 because it's a very short series. So I'm like, that's not bad at all. But yeah, so it's a lot easier to pick up, and even cost wise, you're looking at like an issue for comics because they're full color and the printing quality and everything. You're looking at like anywhere from like, there are some that are like $2.99, especially if you're looking at like Image with Spawn and stuff. But a lot of them are
Hmm.
like, $3.99 all the way up to like $9.99. And
Oh yeah.
then you can get a whole book of manga for about 10 or 12 bucks in the US. If you're in
Yes.
Japan, they're like $3 each. So it's a lot different. Yeah. Most of my books nowadays for manga are actually just Japanese because they're cheaper. And I also am one of those who yells at translation. So this is better for me. But yeah, so it's like it's just it's kind of a new market. And then I also feel like it's not true, but a lot of people, when they say comics, they automatically go to superhero as a genre, and they think that's the only genre that exists. Where when you hear
Right.
manga, they're more likely to think just a lot of genres.
Right. Because manga has so many different things. People don't just go manga and they're automatically like, okay, it's got swords, it's got,
Yeah,
samurais, it's got, women in this one, it's got, murder mystery. There are so many different things that are involved in there, and some of them have all of it mixed into it, and it
yeah.
works.
I mean, comics do have that. There's especially when you start getting into indies. But yeah,
Hmm.
most people, if you say comics, they're thinking of what Marvel and DC made big, which is the superhero genre, especially
Hmm.
the big superheroes, like, the main Justice League or the main Avengers. You're not thinking about these like sub ones. So it's just a total different beast. And I mean, even like I said, I teach manga to my kids to how to draw it and stuff and create their own. And the amount of times when we start talking about the differences between American comics and manga, one of the things we talk about is specifically the like I guess I should say the decline in difference.
Hmm.
And it's like a lot of them don't realize that because they're just like, "Wait, what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's just you gotta go and actually pick them up and look at them." But it's not a really wide known thing. So it's a weird thing.
Exactly. Now, I mean, you're talking about, most people know comics, the superheroes that are out there and everything. Just want to throw out there, not all heroes wear capes. And that being said, want to go ahead and throw out there that Zoskios, they're not wearing capes in this one. And I'm fixing to give you, I know I do the segues so
I
well. I am
like
like
it though. I like
smooth.
it. Now it
Uh,
makes me want to put somebody with a cape in there just for just for shits
I
and
should have, I
giggles.
should have the cape and sitting out here and just
Yeah.
have the wind flowing. Yeah. Yeah, have an S on here, but it's for Segway. Oh my gosh, we get off track a lot. Anyway, squirrel. No, but Zoskios, we want to go ahead and give you full screen on this one. I'm going to let you know to let everyone else know out here why they need to follow you on what's going on over there, where they need to follow you, and why it is that they need to go ahead and go over there because the links are embedded in the feeds. I made it very easy for y'all to click on and go directly over there. So let me go ahead and give her full screen and y'all go see what she's got over there and listen to her carefully.
All right, so you should go and see it because I said so. No. um I mean, for me, this has been a big project of mine, and I know a lot of you guys out there might be trying to work on something yourself, and it's really just cool to be able to like connect with other people who do that stuff and kind of find that boundary and see the growth and stuff. So yeah, those kiosks is my longest running. It used to not be my favorite actually, but I've gotten a lot more attached to it. It is a webcomic initially, so it is fully up online to read for free, unedited. Sorry, at zoskios.com. Yeah, so it is a I did actually go ahead and get like an SSL and everything. Yeah, I had to learn all the coding and like I used to know I can make websites, so I had learned all the stuff to make sure it's specifically none of you guys are gonna have your information stolen. Don't worry. Um, but yeah, so it's been going on. All of it is up there. There were probably some broken links that nobody told me about. So if you go on there and can't read something, please let me know. It is also archived or backed up on Webtoons, but the release date is slower. And then of course, like getting to see like the Kickstarter is what it will be basically how I've always really wanted Volume One to go. It's going to be a different size now. It's going to be more of a digest standard, full color. I'm going to clean up all those little icky stuffs I didn't like. Not going to redraw it as much as I want to, so it will still be the old art, but it's just going to look a lot nicer and a lot newer and a very good starting point. It definitely, I don't want to necessarily say it had a tonal shift, but a lot of people come into Zoskias and don't realize how dark it's like. It is not a it has comedy, but it's not always happy because it's dealing with like other dimensions and magic and supernatural things like vampires and stuff that can't always be happy. So it's not technically a comedy, even though it starts out pretty goofy. So I just wanted to have fun and bring people in and then rip their heart out. So the usual thing. But yeah, I love mythology and folklore and stuff like that too. Of course, you can also follow me on Twitter. Sanzuki Kojika with an underscore. Instagram, Sanzuki Kojika. Pretty much anywhere on social media, I am. Where's my finger? I am Sanzuki Kojika on almost anything, or S Kojika if I can't get it. It's pretty easy. They all usually link back to each other, so it's not hard to find me. YouTube is just an archive of streams I do from Twitch and cover songs because I like singing too. Twitch is I use an avatar on Twitch, like I said. It's a virtual YouTuber, if you will. It's a VTuber. It's an elf girl, the blonde one with the red streak. Basically, I just was like, I don't want to put effort into being myself on stream. I'm myself, but I look cuter. Just easier, so much easier to do. I don't have to I don't even have to dress up. I just literally PJs do it. But yeah, my Twitch name is also Sanzuki Kojika. Surprise. So yeah, I'm on social media pretty much everywhere. I do have some books published through like actual novels published on Amazon. Zoskyas is available for purchase on either my Etsy store, Sanzuki Kojika, or through Indie Planet on which is a independent printing company or like printing area for comics. So that's kind of the big thing with those. And then yeah, if you like my stuff or want to follow it too, I have more generic stuff. Instagram and Twitter obviously have it too, but I have DeviantArt. It's a really old account. It's like 13 years old or more, but that's just Kojika because that was before I was using it as much. And then I also have Patreon, which I do like get you updates. You get to see all the pages for Zoskyas earlier. You get a lot of behind the scene things. You get to see work in progresses, like coloring pages each month, my light novel each month, which is currently only on Patreon. In fact, the background right now, those chibis are from the light novel as written in the stars. So that's part of the cast. And yeah, it's just kind of something I was like, this way I can maintain stuff and feel like I'm more likely to post it when I have like something like that. Plus, you also have a chance for free stuff every month.
There you go. You can't go wrong with that. I mean, go ahead. That's a way to support and still get something back in the process too. But you're definitely helping to keep the dream alive on this because there's a lot of work that she's got on here that she's revamping and revitalizing as she's going along, but also newer stuff coming up that I'm still not going to talk about just yet. Internet.
Yeah. And it's not even the only project I'm working on with somebody else too.
Probably not. No.
I'm actually doing coloring for something. So I'm just the coloring, which is going to be a very interesting point of view that I never thought I'd be from. So that's going to be fun.
Interesting. There you go. See, that resume is just getting bigger and bigger.
I like to do a lot of things, so I'm all for learning. And yeah, it's just kind of a learning thing for me too. I'm like, dude, I can learn something new, do something new. Yeah, let's do it.
That is awesome. Now, in closing with everyone on here, I just want to let y'all know, thank y'all for watching. For one thing, if you will, just go ahead and remember to please like, subscribe, and share out. Subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of the content because you don't want to miss out on any of these shows or any of the other shows on here. Again, this is not for me to retire anytime soon. I'm not doing this to go ahead and try to raise money to get new hair because I don't care. I like it bald.
We can get him a wig.
Yeah, exactly. I can get a wig. There you go. I don't need a wig.
Let's raise money to get him a wig, guys.
I don't need a wig. I got to do the
I was
whole...
thinking we could get you like a pink mohawk or something.
I'm drop dead sexy. I don't need a wig. But make sure that you go out there and support in any way that you can. This brings up my hashtag that I use for all of my shows now, which is hashtag power of the finger, the correct one if you can. Hit that share button. Get these things shared out. If you can't support financially, we understand. Everybody understands that not everything can be supported financially by everybody. There is no judgment in that by anybody out here or anybody out there. But it costs you absolutely nothing to use the power of the finger and hit that share button.
Likes and shares are very helpful for indie
exactly.
Producers and artists and stuff. So
yes. Yeah. Not only that, it'll pop the algorithms and everything, yes, but there's this little thing called the whole, human emotion factor, which is, the creators actually see likes and shares and they're like, wait a minute, they actually like my stuff enough to give that much time, a split second to click. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm not going to stop right now. So it's something that's that simple that can keep this process going. And you'll keep seeing guests like this right here, more guests that'll be coming up on the show, and even further and further down the line in the future. You definitely don't want to see this candle dim anytime soon with the indies. So get out there and hit those shares and use the power of the finger, the correct one if you can, and let's get that done together and see if we can increase the voice of the indies together. And again, it has been a great show. It has been my honor having you on here,
Thank
Fawn.
you for having me. Although I'm very disappointed you did not bring out a candle there. It looked like you reached over for something, and I'm waiting for the fire.
Well, I mean, I don't have a can, but I do have the official mascot of this particular show, which is, powered by
Woo!
unicorn farts. We're just going to go
What
ahead
do
and
they
throw it out
smell
there.
like?
Like rainbows and coffee.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Everyone can ponder that until the next show. So on that note, I get to say what I love saying on every show whenever I end it. Keep it indie, y'all.
Bye.